Hey everyone, it's Galvin back for episode 6 of the poker concept of the day. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about? I guess you can see it in the title. In today's topic, in today's video, we are going to be talking about online poker tells. Okay, so when we talk about the amount of information that's available online, yes, you are going to be having stats. Maybe you might have bought some hands in a database. So in the mathematical aspect of things, I guess you have a lot more data with regards to um, his playing style and all that. And when we are talking about actual tells, game flow dynamics, physical tells, all that, it's going to be a lot less info with regards to these pieces of information for online poker. Yeah, so let's talk about the two most basic tells for online poker. First is bet sizing, second is timing. So I guess in general for bet sizing tells, it's more about recognizing patterns in your opponent's play. Certain players like to bet larger when they have a strong hand and smaller when they are bluffing. So these guys tend to be the passive type, honest passive players. And then there's another type of players who tend to be trickier. They are the type of players who limp with pocket aces. So when you are dealing with such a trappy player, they might be more inclined to bet larger with a bluff and maybe bet half pot with like overpairs or sets. Yeah, so it's really dependent on the player. I guess that isn't really a good answer, right? It depends on the player. So my point is just observe and look for general patterns or trends in your opponent's play. So the second part is about timing tells. And I guess this is going to be more applicable to the general population. Okay, so when we are talking about online play, there are two types of players, right? If you're playing on a China app, you might just be one tabling on your iPad or your phone. So that in itself works a lot like a live table, right? Only one table. And the second type of player is multi-tabling. He could be using an emulator to play on Chinese sites, or if you're just playing PokerStars or some of the more international sites. So international sites, people are always playing many tables, right? So that actually influences the type of decisions that we tend to make. Okay, so if we are talking about someone who's one tabling or playing live, if he is making snap decisions, he is probably not having a super strong hand. Whereas if the guy is like carefully looking at his cards, thinking of what's the best play, he's very focused and sharp, then he probably has a stronger hand. On the flip side, if I was someone who was playing 20 tables, 8 tables zoom, 6 tables zoom, 4 tables zoom, whatever, I do not want to risk timing out. So what I'll do is, if I have a strong hand, I'll just raise it immediately. I'll snap raise. I wouldn't waste any time waiting. Why is that the case? Because there were many times in my entire career, I probably folded pocket aces at least 20 to 50 times. I'm not sure about the exact amount, but it happens so often, right? When you're playing so many hands per hour, sometimes you just cannot click on time. So, folding pocket aces is just a very, very sad thing, especially when it happens pre-flop, right? So in general, you want to avoid making such mistakes, so you will just snap raise your strong hands. What this means is that when someone tanks very long pre-flop and then he makes a raise or he makes a 3-bet or a 4-bet, it just means that he is probably on the lower end of his range. So you might be more inclined to play back against someone who takes a longer period of time when you know he's multi-tabling. But if he's single tabling, he might just be like putting on an act, putting on a show. He can focus, he's not going to time out. Yeah. So that's one thing to take note of. The second thing to take note of is the speed of an action relates actually to the difficulty of a decision. Okay, what do I mean by that? So if we talk about the theory on how we should play our entire hands, right? So I think it's mentioned in my book about how you should bet your strong hands for value. You should check or call your medium strength hands, and you should bet or raise some weaker hands as a bluff, and then you can fold the rest, right? So this is basically a polarized strategy. So what this means is that when someone calls, he's likelier to have a medium strength hand, right? When he snap calls or if he snap checks. Because of course this doesn't apply to all situations. Like if someone snap checks after calling from the big blind, that's his default decision. So it doesn't mean anything. But if someone bets and then another player snap calls him, it means he probably has a hand that is an obvious call. So this usually indicates a medium strength made hand, or it could mean that he had a draw. So I guess aggressive players might consider raising draws, but there are certain types of draws that you would just snap call, right? Like a jack high flush draw or an open-ended straight draw, for example. These hands usually tend to play better as calls. So when someone snap calls, he's probably likelier to have like one of those type of hands. If someone snap raises or snap bets, he probably has an easy value bet, or he has an obvious bluff hand. So on the flip side, when someone tanks for a long period of time before betting, it could mean that he had a hand that could consider checking and was on the stronger side of things, or he had a hand that could consider calling because it was almost strong enough to be used as a call instead of having to be turned into a bluff raise. So it has two meanings, right? Because there's a spectrum of hands. So on this side, you have a strong hand, medium strength hands, weak hands. So over here, you might have a hand that is near the border between strong and medium. And then there's also another border between medium and weak. So if he takes a very long period of time to make his decision, he could be very near the border. So that isn't that useful of information. But if the hand progresses further, then you could use that information to narrow down your opponent's range even more. Okay, yeah, I guess that's all from me for this episode. I'll see you guys next time. If you guys like the video, do leave a thumbs up. If not, leave a comment, give me some feedback, and do share this with your friends if you found this useful. Okay, that's all from me. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.